What's up, guys? Ben here, bringing you another video today. It's the Monday, the week of Major 4. I'm actually getting on a plane in a few hours. But before I hop on that flight, I wanted to get out to you guys my tier list for the week, the pre-event tier list. We've had some movement since the last one of these videos, so this one should be really interesting. Now we're going to rank a bunch of teams here. I'm really excited for this tournament because I think there are two favorites in Thieves and FaZe. We got teams like Miami, Toronto, Vancouver, and even OpTic lurking there to potentially grab their first win this season. So let's dive in and rank the teams 1 through 12. All right, so if you are new here, this is how we do it. We don't do the letter thing. We do it this way. We kind of have these categories. Top of the class are your number 1 and 2 teams in the league. Not really going to be a surprise there, I think, who are in that category. Sunday regulars could be a little bit crowded in this video. We'll see how it shakes out, but that's usually the remaining top 4 teams. Fighting for Sundays are teams kind of on the outside of that conversation. I think I know what team I'm going to put in here that might be controversial. We'll get to that. Mid, I mean, that one's pretty straightforward. This is really going to be your kind of bottom-ish teams in the league that are kind of fighting for the champ spot other than Vegas and LAG. So what's it, the rest of the top 8 and top 10, something like that. And then playing for EWC, yeah, I think you take a guess which squads are in this category. All right, we're gonna start with the teams at the bottom. Let's go first with LAG. 1 and 4 during this split online. Losses to Miami in game 5, Minnesota game 5, 3-0'd by FaZe, 3-0'd by Boston. Their only win was a game 5 win versus OpTic Texas. I really think this LAG team just feels like a mercenary team. It feels like they're all kind of just trying to play for potential spots next year. You know, they're just not really remarkable. I'm glad we haven't talked much about them the last 8 weeks. There's not really much to say. Their hard point is kind of evened out. Last split, they really struggled to win them. This split, 5 and 3 so far online. But 2 and 6 and 0 and 5 in control is just where you look at the quality of players in this team. How are they bad at S&D? Control is kind of understandable, but 2 and 6 in Surge? I don't know. I mean, again, these guys are playing for EWC. We'll see what kind of roster moves they make after this event. Well, I'm pretty certain that they are going to be out of it by the midday on Friday, especially because I think they're going to play their FaZe or Cloud9, and to be honest, they're not beating either of them. All right, let's move on to the other playing for EWC team, and that is the Vegas Falcons. Also 1 and 4 this split. No 0 and 5 teams. So everybody was able to grab a win this split. They lost. They got 3-0 by Cloud9 to start the split. A game 5 win versus the Minnesota Rocker, and then losses to Miami, Thieves, and FaZe. I mean, it's kind of a tough stretch. They won 1 map versus Miami, but 0 and 3 against Thieves and FaZe. And I thought last split, you know, there was some life with their team in regards to hardpoint, but the other modes were iffy. It's very funny this split, and considering the quality of team they play, especially the last 3 matches, they haven't been able to win a single hardpoint. No one really wants to square with them on Skyline, so they're forced to play Vault and Red Card, and they can't find dubs on those maps. 2 and 4, and S&D not too bad. 2 and 3 control improvement for 1 and 5 last split. But just like LAG, there's not a lot here that makes you think they're really going to grind out any kind of wins at a LAN event. I think the sub duo is also kind of fallen a little bit. There's just not a lot of nice things to say about Vegas Falcons, and again, look at LAG, curious what they're going to do after this event as far as building for EWC. And they're also not going to make it through Friday because they play the loser of Thieves and Vancouver Surge, and I don't see them beating any one of those teams. So yeah, they're getting top 12 at this event. All right, let's move on to the mid-pack teams. I think it's probably these 3 squads, and honestly moving Boston down here. All right, I don't know how to order these teams, so let's go in one by one. Carolina really bottomed out this split. This was by far and away, I believe, their worst online split. I think last one was pretty bad too, but they were able to win twice online. This one, they only won once. A 3-1 loss to Toronto to open up the stage. A 3-0 Boston, so maybe put them in front of Boston. I don't know. OpTic, they got 3-0'd. Lost 3-1 to Minnesota Rocker, 3-0'd by Miami. And I think the concerning thing for me when we talk about this Carolina team is they were able to grind out series in the beginning of the year with Reese via winning S&Ds. In the last 2 splits, they have entered the event with a sub 500 record in that game mode. Finished 4 and 5 last split in S&D. They're currently 2 and 3 in the game mode. The other problem is that these guys are probably one of the worst control teams in the league. A combined 2 and 10 right now through the last split and this split. So they have fallen sub 500 in the game mode. And it's pretty apparent when you watch them play what their issues are. They're just too slow. Just not really able to kind of manipulate the map, funnel, make things easy. They're just very reactive. And the way they're reacting as well, very slow. I just think this Carolina team is once again a test case in They were good early. They didn't do a good enough job to keep their spot. Other teams caught up, and they've been chasing the pack ever since. And honestly, they haven't had enough star power to really get there. So for Carolina, yeah, they're going to make champs, but this event is looking a little bit slow for them, especially because they got OpTic and Toronto Ultra. The loser of that, they will play. And I hate to say it, I don't see the upset for Carolina. I think they're going home early on Friday. And I'm very curious to know what Carolina is going to do to try and have some kind of momentum for champs, because they're looking like a top 8 there, and then EWC, I don't know. It's going to be a really ugly finish for Carolina after a promising top 4 at the first event of the season. All right, let's talk about Boston. They had 2 wins online, but 2 and 3 not good enough to make winners bracket. Got 3-0 by Carolina, beat OpTic in game 5, lost to Vancouver 3-0, lost to Thieves 3-0, and then 3-0 to LAG yesterday. I mean, maybe they're better than Carolina. I just don't know. They are the literal definition of mid. Could they get a top 6 run at this event? They play Minnesota or Miami, the loser of, which is actually honestly kind of winnable compared to the other sides of the losers bracket. And then they would probably have to play their Thieves, Surge, or Falcons to make top 6. I think they could get top 8. I just don't think that they're going to get top 6 at this event with the bracket draw they have currently. I think the other problem that they have is they are once again kind of swung back into poor form of control. Last split, they seem to have fixed their issues. They only lost 1 and 8 that they played last split, including the LAN event. This split, they were 1 and 4 in control. And they have not been able to pick on wins on either Vault or Protocol. And the hard point in the S&D haven't been that bad, but you know, when this team gets behind early in the series, you just can't count on them right now to win that swing mode. Last split, they can do it. They can't now. They couldn't do it during Major 2. Yeah, I think this team is just a little definition of mid. I think they'll play it out the rest of the year. They're confirmed, probably going to make champs, barring some catastrophic series of events. Because right now they're at 200, and I just don't see a world in which like Minnesota and Cloud. I mean, it was super unlikely that Minnesota and Cloud9 jump Boston and OpTic, but I just don't see it. I think Boston's getting in. The problem is you're playing phase winners round 1, and yeah, it's only going to get worse from there. So I think for Boston, top 8, probably maximum this event. 6 would be incredible, to be honest. They get another top 6, but I just think they are, I don't know. They are just a little definition of mid. You know what? I'll put them for Carolina, because even though Carolina beat them, I think Boston's probably better than them right now. Will probably beat them at Atlanta event currently. All right, next up, the Minnesota Rocker, and they needed a really good stage where they kind of won 3, 4, 5 games this split, and it just hasn't happened. And it started with a really pitiful loss, game 5, to the Vegas Falcons, and they 3-0'd, sketchy 3-0 versus LAG. Got 3-0 smoked by Toronto. Nice 3-1 victory against Carolina. I'll tip that, but then they lost 3-1 to Vancouver this weekend. They just haven't done enough to really make up the ground on the teams in 7th and 8th. And they go into this event needing to really make a deep run, 3rd, 2nd, 1st, like just making it to Sunday and hoping OpTic bomb out. But if OpTic win that first winners bracket match, it's looking pretty chalked for Rocker to make champs. I think part of the other issues this split is, you know, the impact, the series that we saw from Geo and Estriel earlier on this year. They haven't really gotten them consistently this stage or the last stage. I think Nero's had some pop-offs and Ken's played a decent level, but those guys, on top of the ice issues the team already has, and we've discussed a bunch on the flank, like, I don't think they're playing well enough or in a good enough form that I think they're going to make this run. They currently will play Miami Heretics in winners round 1, which the way Miami's playing right now, I just don't see from Minnesota. They drop down to losers. They play Boston, winners losers round 1, doable. I think then you would play either Thieves, Surge, or Vegas Falcons to get top 6, which I just don't think is possible either. You get past that, you're probably playing Toronto FaZe or OpTic. I don't see how these guys make a run with the current form they're in. I just think at best they're getting 8th, and we'll see what they do for EWC with the roster, but it just hasn't been enough. Now, the other bubble team that is 10 points behind it, but right now, if I had to pick a team, I think to maybe make the run, it would probably be Cloud9 over Minnesota. They also made winners bracket with Miami. Again, it's kind of 2 and 3 situation. They 3-0'd Falcons off the rip this stage. Got 3-1 by Toronto. Beat FaZe 3-1. That's a pretty typical win out of them. But 3-1 loss to Miami, 3-0 versus Thieves is how they lost a little bit of ground on the seeding front. I think the concern with C9 when you watch them play is I think they're definitely a very good hardpoint team, and I just think people are not going to play them now on Vault. That's just not going to get in the series, I think, at this event. But the S&D, the control is a bit iffy. Hossy's by far the best map in control, but they haven't been able to win a Vault, so you got to think there. And then on the S&Ds, 1 and 4 on the split only win on dealership. I just think the C9 team makes a lot of mistakes. They just kind of play very sloppy. They have potential takeover potential, but like Capsule is a good kind of player to demonstrate their issues. It just kind of swings too much in both directions. For them to be consistent enough to, like the situation in Minnesota, little C9 is 10 points farther back, to make the run deep onto Sunday where they would actually make champs. The C9 opened up against FaZe, who I'm very curious again on the control front. Will FaZe play them on Hossy? I know C9 beat them before, but I just think FaZe probably get this one done. And then so C9 will get bounced down to losers bracket. They'll play LAG and probably smoke them. And then it's Carolina, Toronto, or OpTic to make top 6. Gonna be a big ask there. And then even if you get past that, you're probably playing either Miami, Thieves, or Vancouver to make top 4. I don't really see the path forward for Sunday for C9. I think just like Minnesota, I think our champs teams are set, and it kind of is what it is for those two squads. I think they just didn't do enough this season to make it in. But I think they're playing better COD than Boston right now, potentially. That's why I don't know what to do about this mid pack. They all just kind of beat each other. So a bit of a problem here in the middle of this. We have 4 teams who I think are all now pretty decent, but I'm not really sure how to order them. So I'm going to start with Miami, and we're going to put them in Sunday regulars because they went 5-0 this split. They played really good online last split as well. Just kind of came up short at the event when needed to get deeper on Sunday. But I think for Miami, they've had some great wins this stage. Game 5 over Thieves. 3-1 Cloud9, 3-0 Carolina, 3-1 Falcons, 3-2 LAG. The only thing that gives me pause, just a caliber opponent other than that first weekend where they caught Thieves kind of slipping. I think the control for Miami is still a little bit iffy. The only thing that gives me kind of belief that they can kind of get top 4 is just how good their search is. 7-0 this split, and they're just kind of winning on every map. So they have a very good draw in winners round 1. They play Minnesota Rocker. I think that's probably the weakest of the winners bracket teams. They should be able to dispatch them well. And then it's going to come down to whether or not they can beat Thieves or Vancouver. If you do that, you're in winners finals. If not, they're going to drop down to the bottom side of the losers bracket, which I actually don't think will be too terrible for them. If I had to make a prediction, it's probably like OpTic or Toronto down there that they're going to have to beat to make top 4. And I think they could probably potentially do it. I think Miami have a good chance of getting top 4. Can they actually win this event? I think it's doable. I think that them being good at S&D, them having beaten Thieves and FaZe in the last couple of weeks gives you belief they can. I want to make sure they can put it together because we've seen teams go undefeated in this stage. And yeah, it hasn't been pretty since Cold War with that record. But I'm going to put them in Sunday regulars because of their form really the last 8 weeks. They kind of deserve to be here. It gets a little bit dicey then after that. I don't really know what to think about all 3 of these teams. I'm going to leave Toronto in fighting for Sundays for now. This split, they started off 3-0, wins against Carolina, Cloud9, and Rocker. But they played Vancouver and OpTic, and they only won 1 map in both those series. I'm a little concerned right now that the AR talent on this team, Beans and Insider, are just not playing well right now. And as good as Kleenex and Joe Deceives are, I just think they don't have that, like the last event they had Merc, they had that fresh look. People not really sure what maps they're going to play. They were able to kind of leave people by surprise. I don't really think they have that factor anymore. I also don't think their control is like the world's greatest control either. So unless they come in, they're hot at hardpoint again. Their search is also not that good. I think there's a world where Toronto could really disappoint this event. They opened up against OpTic, and I could definitely see them losing that game. And then they got to play Carolina. They'll probably beat them. LAG or C9, they'll probably beat them. It just comes down to whether or not they can beat a Vancouver, Thieves, or Miami to make top 4 as they drop down from the top side of winners. That I just don't know. But I'm going to leave Toronto for fighting for Sundays right now because I got a sneaky suspicion they're going to get top 6 of this event. I'm going to actually do this. Thinking about this now, we're going to leave both Vancouver and OpTic in this category. Maybe a little bit controversial, but Miami's the only team I kind of trust to make top 4 right now. Vancouver played Thieves in winners round 1. I think they're going to lose. They're going to play Falcons in losers round 1. They'll win that one. Then they'll play the Boston or Minnesota, probably win that one. And then it's going to be probably OpTic, FaZe, or Toronto to make top 4. I just don't know. Vancouver's been a really weird team. They started off the split losing to FaZe and OpTic. Game 5 to FaZe, 3-0'd by OpTic. A little concerned after that first week, but they've kind of righted the ship against some teams that are weaker than them. In Boston and Rocker, and a nice 3-1 victory against Toronto as well. The one concern I have with the search team is just the S&D does not look great right now. Hardpoint looks good, again. Control is aight, but not really elite enough that they're going to be able to contend with the top teams on that mode. But the search has me a little bit concerned right now. They were great last split, not so great this split. And could be problematic as they get deeper in the losers bracket. So look, I think all the teams in this spot, Toronto, Vancouver, and OpTic, could make a full losers bracket run and get deep in the tournament. I think they have the ability to do that. I just don't know with Vancouver. I think their window for getting into finals might have closed because other teams have caught up to them. And I'm just concerned with the draw of this bracket that they may just be on the outside looking in to make it to Sunday. Top 6 wouldn't be terrible, but again, considering the 2 events before where you didn't capitalize, it's just not the trend you want for this team. So I think they're going to fight for Sundays, but I don't think it's a lock that they're going to make it. I'm going to put OpTic probably in front of both of these teams. They're really, though, the biggest wildcard team in this group. I think we kind of know what level Toronto and Vancouver give us. OpTic, because they've gotten top 8, 3 straight events, prior to obviously Merc joining. I just don't know where they're at. This is a very weird stage for OpTic. So they played the first match with Caesar, a 3-0'd surge. Then Merc came in. They lost that game 5 to Boston. That was, that was interesting. They 3-0'd Carolina. They lost the game 5 to LAG in terrible fashion. Then they 3-0'd Toronto yesterday. So I don't know what to think of this OpTic team. Are they good? Are they mid-pack? Are they top 6? Are they top 8? Are they better? I just don't know. I think the control right now is really good. 5-0, they have not lost many around and control the split. But the other 2 game modes are very dicey. They're just slightly above 500 there in both 4 and 3. And I just think that clinically, they make a lot of mistakes at the end of those maps. And you just don't know if they're going to clutch up and win them or lose. So OpTic, I just think have, of all the teams in this category, like the biggest ceiling to floor. I think OpTic as constructed could definitely make it deep on the tournament. I don't know if they're going to win in the winners or losers finals if they get there. But I think compared to these other squads, I kind of like their chances they get deeper in a tournament. The other problem is I could also see them just kind of bomb out again because they came into Major 1 on good form and we saw how that went. Now, they played Toronto in an instant rematch in winners round 1 of Friday afternoon. That one could get very interesting. I think I would pick OpTic to win right now, but I will not be surprised if they lose that match. So they win, they're probably playing FaZe, and I can't pick them to be FaZe with just how FaZe have looked on LAN this year. So in that situation, OpTic would go to the top side of the losers bracket, which actually would be really good for them. I think they can get top 4 there because it's going to probably be like Vancouver or Minnesota that they're going to have to play in that situation. And Boston, maybe if Boston make a run. If they lose early in that and winners round 1, they're going to play Carolina, who they should beat, and play their LAG or C9, who they should beat. And then to get into top 4, they're going to have to play probably either Thieves, Surge, or Miami, I would think in that situation. So we'll see for OpTic. Again, I think that sort of uncertainty around that first match can kind of really change the dynamic of whether I think they can get top 6, whether I think that they're going to make it to Sunday, and then we'll see what happens there. I just don't know. The Merc pickup was great. It was the right decision. They've looked better. Now can they get to a LAN and actually execute the way they're playing online? That is a big question mark, and that is why I can't move them up yet to Sunday regulars. We need to see them actually get a decent placing at a LAN event this year. Thieves and FaZe. I'm going to do, I don't know the order, because although FaZe did beat Thieves earlier on this stage in that first week, where FaZe also beat Vancouver 3-0, he did also have that bad loss to Cloud9. They've pretty much took care of business against LAG and Falcons. Really nothing remarkable there. I think for FaZe, it's just the S&D and the control are incredible right now. A combined 10-1 in both those game modes is split. It's just what version of the hardpoint are they going to get? I think their hardpoint started to look better in the last week and a half in the matches, but they also played weaker teams there. So I just don't know what to think. I don't think it's a team that needs to take 2 hardpoints off of a Thieves or Miami. They just got to figure out how to get one. And honestly, it's really getting better at Skylander Volt in my mind. And Haas is kind of 50-50 for them. But they've always continued to be like a pretty solid red card hardpoint team. It just doesn't end up in a lot of series for them. So I think for a FaZe, you're a FaZe fan. That C9 draw is interesting, but I just think that they're going to be more clinical than C9 in that series. And then it's the match with either Toronto or OpTic. And if they get past that, probably it's going to be one or probably two square ups with Thieves. But I could see FaZe, you know, if the hard point is a little bit iffy, stumbling past Cloud9, I don't think they're going to lose him twice the split. And then maybe having issues against Toronto and OpTic, and they're going to have to then figure it out from losers bracket. But I think for FaZe, it's looking like they're on a collision course with Thieves. I think if you're FaZe and you win a hard point in that matchup against Thieves, I think you feel really good about your chances for winning this event. If the hard point's iffy again, then there's any range of possibilities for FaZe, including getting top 6 at this event. And then for Thieves, and you know, they had a pretty early stumble in this stage. The losses to Miami and FaZe weren't great, but haven't dropped the map since. Mind you, they played Falcons, Boston, and C9. I think the only thing for me right now with Thieves is I'm a little concerned about their S&D, even against some of those other teams I mentioned here. The search hasn't looked amazing. The hardpoint's really good. The control is great. The only loss on the split to control was to FaZe on protocol. And they're just going to have to square with FaZe on Hosty and see how it goes. I don't know if the protocol wave is going to be the play there. But I think if you're a Thieves fan, you feel pretty good. I think they got a very good draw generally, because I think they should be able to beat Vancouver. They are well suited to beat that team on land, to be honest, because I just don't think Vancouver are a great 2-3-5 team. But if Thieves come out and don't have that energy early, we've seen that they've gotten upset early in tournaments, so we'll see. Get past that, you got to play Miami. That's where the S&D is going to be really interesting, because if Miami extend that series and we go to a game 5, kind of like Miami's chance to win that one. But you get past it if you're Thieves, and same thing as FaZe, you square up with them, and it's going to really come down, I think, to how Thieves can execute the middle of that series, because I just think that FaZe really have their number in S&D so far this season. 3-6 against FaZe and S&D this season, 2-4 control, 4-5 in hardpoint. So I think there's opportunity on the respawns with the S&D. This is kind of similar to FaZe versus OpTic. I just think FaZe's depth and their level of execution S&D causes problems. So I hope we get the Thieves FaZe square up. I'm gonna leave them in the one spot right now just because they won the last LAN event, but it's really a 1A, 1B situation with them. And I'll be honest, looking at the whole tier list right now, I think Miami of the pack, the two teams I think that could potentially challenge FaZe and Thieves. Miami because of how good their search is and the way they're playing right now, but obviously they had a pretty weak schedule, so maybe I eat some cheese there. Vancouver, because they made it deep on the last couple of events. So maybe they do with that, but I don't have them really. They get to a final, they're going to lose. OpTic's the weirdest wild card because if they get confidence and belief, there's a lot of talent on that team that they can actually pull off and win events. Toronto, I'm just kind of out on, to be honest. I just think where Toronto's at right now, it's kind of in an iffy spot, and I just don't see them making it deep. Then after all those teams, you got the pack of mid, and I think a bunch of those are going home early, and then Vegas and LAG. It's going to be a weird tournament in the sense of like we're eliminating 5 teams on Friday. So a bunch of these teams are really just going to play one series and be kind of out of it by Friday. But it is what it is. I'm excited for this tournament. Potentially a number of upsets can happen at this one if things break that way. But if the favorites win, I'm excited to see a Thieves FaZe score up at the end. Thieves versus Miami, FaZe OpTic on land. There's a lot of cool matchups that we can get in this one. I'm excited to cover with y'all live from the event. So let me know what you guys think of the video. We're gonna get scrap time up tomorrow, and I'll have a vlog later on this week. Some streams either on Tommy's channel or maybe on my channel early on this week. Keep you guys posted on that. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe for more. And as always, we'll see you on the next one.